Black metal hail from Finland. This is Rauta. I am Jerry, and this time we're gonna discuss the new album by 1349 from Norway, a black metal band that is actually become one of the most successful acts from Norway these days, even though they started as late as 1997 and really made their first albums after the turn of the millennium. However, they have proved to be strong, ever active, and I guess in so many ways a quality black metal act that has overshadowed, at least in terms of success, so many preceding bands. Goddamn, I should totally just don't finish. Anyway, thanks to their publicist, 1349 new double album is here. In vinyl, that is no CD, for review, coming through Season of Mist. This is The Wolf and the King. So let's start unsleeving, or unboxing if you prefer that word, this beauty before we talk about the music and tell a little bit of that history and all. Now that is something that I briefly covered when I made my video series about Norwegian black metal from the 90s, because indeed this is one of those bands that started back in the days, even if indeed the albums didn't make to the sunlight already in the 90s, because like I said, the band had their first album out early 2000s, and in that respect a little bit late bloomer. I mean, back in early 1990s, like 1991, and so you had the Burzums and Immortals and Enslaved and all that stuff, so you could go a little bit micromanaging and say 1349 is the second wave of black metal, phase 2 if you will. Anyhow, this is how the LP looks like. Comes with two albums, or two vinyl discs. And somebody has been a little bit funny here in terms of, putting the vinyl out. I was searching out so that I listened to them in proper order. Don't get me wrong. I first got the digital copy weeks, maybe a couple of months before getting this vinyl one. So I already had given it spin before this one. Now I went for the actual vinyl release. So I'm listening to the vinyl version when reviewing the vinyl version. And I was looking for the sides A, B, C, and D, and didn't find them. So I was like, okay, maybe they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. They were not Death Eater. They were actually 1, 3, 4, 9. And I was like, yeah, such a great joke. Anyhow, that's how it goes. But this vinyl has a beautiful glossy cover. There's obviously the King and the Wolf, as the name suggests, the Wolf and the King. And these are done in a nice details. Not only the cover image is very, very beautiful, as you can see. I pardon for the reflection, but comes with the daylight and all. And then you have these kind of golden prints here for the logo and the album name, as well as the track names here. And as you figured out, this is gatefold. So let's take a look at this. As you can see, this is filled with detailed symbols, beautiful drawings and all. So this gives you a very, very different feeling than getting your generic AIR streaming service digital version. So if you're going for the album, go with the physical product, which is much more looking like a precious thing than your digital things, which are not even things. Alright, that's enough for that. Now let's head for Metal Archives for the basic things about the band. So, founded in 1997. And it's known for a couple of things. First and foremost, I guess the musical definition would be just Norwegian black metal. And with themes like Satanism, apocalypse, darkness, misanthropy. Didn't go into details of that. Sometimes, and oftentimes, lyrics go from album to album, and that's another story. But secondly, this is mostly known as Frost the drummer's second band, right after Satyricon. And it's not just a quick visit. I mean, he has been in the band for more than 20 years, even though not the original members, which you can see quickly. This is very, very interesting and something that is to be respected. This band has 2 original members and 1 more from the 90s. And even like I said, Frost has been in the band for more than 20 years. This is a rarity these days. I mean, most often you see bands which at least half the members have changed, and so many bands are just operating with 1 original member and the rest are, been in a band for a few years at max. This band has been intact for almost quarter of a century. So it's a big thing. If you take a look at the members list, you will see only 2 previous members. So this is indeed quite of an achievement. They left rather early on. Well, with Kjellve, we could say not that early on, 9 years in the band, but nowadays you could still say and they feel like it's been an eternity since the band had major lineup changes. So very, very interesting in that respect that these guys managed to keep it up, making the music, not splitting up, because that's just kind of bound to happen when people have day jobs, families, and or get just bored with their musical styles and went for different directions. So this is how 1349 looks like. And they have been very, very active, especially the early years, putting albums, like album after year, starting with Liberation in 2003. And then the pace a little bit slowed down, but never kind of too much. I mean, you have 4 years here and 5 years here and 5 years more here. But that's kind of a typical thing when you have a touring band. And yeah, people probably have other things in their lives than just playing in a band. Not to say playing in a band is a very, very demanding task and all, but means that there are other things that take your time and energy and all. Now, since Metal Archives always has only a few reviews, this is not the tool I use to give you a consensus how people have been welcoming new albums. So instead I use Radar Music, which is a little bit more solid given that it has at least a few hundred votes and often thousands of votes. That's not the case with 1349, but gives you a little bit of indication how this album has been welcomed. I've already set this based on average, so setting from the worst to best in according to people's opinion. And it's curious to see that Wolf and the King is the second least rated album, less than 3.0 at the moment, whereas I would say, yeah, it's totally 4-star album. These are my ratings in case you're wondering, and yeah, Revelations of the Black Flame is the weakest one in my opinion as well, though wouldn't rate this brutal. And my favorite among, with the Word of the King is Liberation, the debut album, which is here, 3rd lowest rating. So maybe I am in a different position with other people here, but yeah, this is curious that how people have rated the debut album and this, among the worst. For me, to be honest, The Wolf and the King could be indeed the best 1349 album so far, or at least, challenging the debut album, which made back in the ways, the waves. All right. So this album comes with, 2 vinyl or 4 sides, but it's only 38 minutes, which makes it peculiar why it's been even released on 2 vinyl ones. Here you can see all the versions, like different CDs and, of course, digital and tape. It's been out since October 4th. So this is curious because you could basically make the claim that you can fit in 20 minutes per side. So I don't know why it's like that, but it is what it is. Looks beautiful and though, but makes you wonder what we are missing here, because this is indeed the 45 RPM two vinyl ones. So I don't know really, but that goes beyond the scope. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that this is quite a versatile 1349 albums. It's not all that full speed ahead, but it's a little bit more complicated, which in my opinion is that the band has matured nicely, meaning they are maybe more thoughtful in terms of, writing music, making riffs, creating the order of the songs and the album and, figuring out things. No song is way too lengthy, which is a good thing, because way too often there are bands that just like, okay, I love what I'm writing, so I'm going to make this 12-minute epic track, and you're like, you're writing basic black metal. Why would you need like that? Because it's my thing. I want to tell this story and nobody gives a fuck. But here they are more like, focusing around 4-5 minutes, which is exactly what you need with this kind of music and nothing else, nothing more. Sometimes even less is just fine, but can't really complain that the songs are like overextending their stay, more like, doing the proper thing. What I found funny with the opening track though, there's one riff which I really, really love. And it's curious because it sounds like old Metallica. I'm talking about the 1980s Metallica, whether like Master of Puppets or maybe Justice for All kind of a riff. I really couldn't put my finger on it, but I'm saying it really reminds probably one riff, which I can't remember which song it is, but and Justice for All thing. So it's kind of curious that they have this riff that is kind of like old school trash, but it's not like trash like, Slayer, Testament, whatever. It's Metallica thing. That is then again, mixing things up with rather traditional second wave black metal things. There are faster parts. There's fierce, first drumming, double bass, all often, and things like that. Then you have strong vocals to support it. They're kind of a dry, but in my opinion, the kind of stuff what I would like. Closer, more probably, old Saturican style than one of those screamy, high, streaky vocals, more on the raspberry side of things, how I prefer. They could have more energy and, aggression, I guess, but then again, it really fits the kind of a music here. Now, I recently witnessed the band live with my cameraman. We were aiming for a, interview with the guys. They played in Finland a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it because of schedule time is so, hard on the band, and they're touring, Europe and all. So we just saw the gig, and it was really, really nice to experience at this point, because now they have so much more experience, so many albums out, so many miles or kilometers on the road, by this far. So they really kind of showed that they're strong live as well as an album now. So maybe the maturity, getting older and getting more experience, and really paid off. Now, the only thing I can really bitch about versus album versus live is, because they use only one guitar player, and of course guitarist, drummer, vocalist, is that whenever there is a guitar solo, you are like, what the hell is going on? It's focusing on the solo, and since there is no rhythm guitarist to kind of keep it going, and the bass is not audible enough, it just feels a little bit weird versus the album work. That's not a big thing, I'm just kind of saying that sometimes those solos really make you miss the other guitar track here, or more like you can skip the solos altogether. Now, this is just a minor thing, not related so much to the album. Pointing out, just like if you're still around and you have the chance, go to see them live. They're good. And this album, like I said, this is so good because it's very, very well balanced. All the production, vocal parts, songwriting parts are like, things click. There are no boring parts. Some riffs are maybe a little bit like, this could be seen as a filler. But then again, let's be honest about it, most albums need those filler parts for the better parts, be it chorus or bridge or whatever, to kind of shine. Or maybe it's actually the Bruce bridge parts, which are more or less the filler, filling the gaps, like, hey, we're moving this great part to this another good part here, and you need to just build the bridge there. Anyhow, overall, I would say this band is going places, and I think they are getting even more recognition with this one. So don't care what their first radio music numbers or scores look like. They're gonna change over the months. It's always the first adopters that are either really enthusiastic, like, I love this band, I'm gonna rate it right away. Or then there are those haters which are going like, I'm gonna prove that this band sucks by giving them a 2. So yeah, it is what it is. I've seen those numbers change, and so don't give a shit though much about numbers game. But it was kind of like as an anecdotal thing to point out that some people really, really go for, different directions. But really, going back to this cover, this is one of the most beautiful covers I've seen the end of year. So there is something that really separates these physical products from the digital ones. And I think if you like the album, go for this one. If you don't have a vinyl player, I guess CD is better than no physical product at all. But the vinyl really brings this one alive. And I think it's worth your money, if you're in the band and the album, of course. Now off we go. Looking forward to interview these guys someday, someplace, where, when, I don't know, but fingers crossed and all. Now off we go. Enjoy some Norwegian black metal, and see you soon with more reviews coming your way. Ciao, ciao.